Oh, no, I'm ready.
You ready?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right, we are ready. Good evening. Welcome to the May 18th, 2023 meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law Number 14 of 2022, adopted on May 24th, 2022. Our next meeting and those following will be held in person here at Town Hall and will also continue to allow for remote participation. So we ask you to continually check the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. With that, I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who are here with us in person tonight, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another in the boardroom as it interferes with our recording equipment. Tonight we have board member Helen Burgess who will be participating remotely via Zoom. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure that the documents identify the ZBA application name and tax map number. The application name should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a date to be announced after the hearing. Those comments can be addressed to the members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell. And before we go on to the minutes, I just want to congratulate Susan Kern, who is now the vice chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So next on to, let me see. I have to, I want to make a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
I wasn't here, but I reviewed the minutes via the videotape, so yes, aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. And next on to adjournments.
Okay, we're gonna go to the decision calendar. The following decisions will be adjourned until our 6/1 meeting. Samir and Kelly Ropal, Dennis Schmidt, North Phillips Properties LLC, Barbara Rosenthal, Matthew Frank, the Andrea Road Board 2015 Family Irrevocable Trust, Production Holdings LLC, and Lee Skolnick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, then I'll move to reopen 1566 Noyak LLC to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill?
All right,
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopened.
all right, now I'll move to close it for determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, I'll move to reopen HBB Beach House LLC. Two
Second.
separate and subs?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, reopened.
Now I'll move to close for the determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. And then, the beginning of the decision calendar, I'm gonna move to reopen East Quogue 535 Realty, Inc. for the board to have a discussion.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
All right,
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, reopened.
All right, so this matter was reopened because, as you know, we referred this application to the planning board, and we hadn't had a report from them, even though we did take testimony at the last meeting that it was on. The planning board report that we received May 3rd basically suggested or recommended to the ZBA that we re-coordinate the SECRA because they had modified the application. They had eliminated the expansion of the non-conforming use. But, Claire had recommended that we re-coordinate SECRA. It also added some new variances that were discussed, but they hadn't been confirmed at the last public hearing as it related to the relief for the canopy and also for the impervious lot coverage. So we do need to re-coordinate SECRA. I did speak with the applicant. They suggested that the application is now a type 2, but Claire Shea disagrees. She's our planner who's been working on this for SECRA purposes. So I do think we need to re-coordinate SECRA, which we can do, but the other thing I wanted to talk to the board about was how you want to address the variances for the canopy and for the impervious lot coverage. Like I said, they were mentioned at the public hearing. In fact, I think one of the constituents mentioned the impervious lot coverage, which I didn't know was even a section of the town code. So you can capture that under any and all relief necessary, or if you want to, you can ask them to re-advertise for those variances while we're also re-coordinating SECRA.
Well, my inclination is to, any and all relief necessary. I try to make this process as simple as possible, but I don't know whether other board members feel that we need to do an additional notice to the adjacent property owners on this.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine
I would like to re-advertise.
It's just gonna create
I agree with re-advertising it. There's nothing simple about this application.
there's just a lot of opposition. I think the application's relatively
There is a lot of
straightforward.
opposition. You could say to them, we're only gonna take testimony as it relates to the new variances, which is the canopy and the impervious coverage. I mean, listen, I agree, we've had a lot of testimony on this, but we do have to do the SECRA anyways, so there's no delay for the applicant, because we have to wait for 30 days anyways. I think it could be captured, but I don't see the harm either.
Maybe
All right, so let's go with
Let's go re-advertise.
Susan and Michael's wishes.
But we can help the
How's that?
applicant, we can help the applicant in the mailing say,
Okay.
for purposes of this hearing, the board only wants to hear new testimony as it relates to the canopy,
I
the
agree.
impervious.
I agree with
That I
that.
agree with.
Okay.
Because we don't want to open the can of worms again and.
Yep. We don't have to hear everything all over again. Okay, so,
Agree.
all right, so, I don't know, do we need to do a motion on that?
Yeah, I
think we
just have to
probably
think
do.
of what the date would be,
Yep,
because we have
okay.
to, we have to get the revised,
Make sure you'll be here for it.
we have to get the revised EAF.
God, God forbid I'm not here,
So
yeah.
maybe,
Vote out till the 20th.
Second meeting in August.
Yeah.
we could do the second meeting in July, because that would give them.
I'm out. I think Adam's out.
okay.
Actually, I'm gonna be here as it turns
No,
out,
okay,
so.
I'll be away, so
Okay.
as long as you have enough.
Let me just think,
Okay.
because let's say they gave us the revised EAF, within the next week or so, then you do 30 days from that. Let's do the second meeting of July.
Will
Which I
the planning
believe is
board
till
have
July
time
20th.
to do their secret by then?
Well, we have to yeah. Well, we
We
actually,
have
we'd
it on
have
for
to,
the coordination for next week, actually, it's scheduled presumptuously.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thinking that this board was gonna coordinate, so we have it on schedule already.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so, I guess I'll make the motion that we're gonna be adjourning.
We're gonna
the
re-advertise.
Re-advertising the application, and the new date will be on the re-advertised, application will be, July 20th.
Second.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard? Aye. Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, item 3 on the agenda is Bridgehampton Fields LLC. I'm gonna move to re-advertise that to our June 1st meeting.
To re-add, so we don't have to vote on that one in particular.
Right. Now, to the front of the agenda, we'll go with item 1 on the new applications. Vincent Smith and Candy Smith, 74 Pine Neck Avenue in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-5-5-30.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code: to legalize the addition and conversion of detached garage to finished storage workshop on a non-conforming lot. 330-84, pyramid height for a total pyramid encroachment of 578 cubic feet, where 368 cubic feet was pre-existing. 330-115C, continuance for an accessory side yard setback of 0 feet, where 0.2 feet was pre-existing. And 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts. And 330-83C, yards to allow a storage building to be located within the minimum required side yard for a principal building. 2, to legalize an above-ground pool located within the required front yard setback. 330-11, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory front yard setback of 31.3 feet from Noyak Avenue, where 40 feet is required, an accessory front yard setback of 38.9 feet from Pine Road, where 40 feet is required, and an accessory side yard setback of 7.4 feet, where 8 feet is required. 3, to legalize a deck around the above-ground pool. 330-83A4, to allow a deck higher than 1 foot above ground level to be located in the required front yard. 330-84, for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 2.94 cubic feet. And 330-11, for an accessory side yard setback of 6.6 feet, where 8 feet is required. To legalize a sunroom. 330-84, for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 85.33 cubic feet. And 330-103, corner clearance to allow a fence in excess of the permitted height of 2 feet to be located within the corner clearance areas, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. Can you pass those to
Good
Mike?
evening. Steph, we'll swear you in, swear you both in, you can just state your names and addresses.
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning, 225 Montauk Highway, Moriches, New York.
Vincent?
Vincent Smith, 74 Pine Neck Avenue, Sag Harbor, New York.
And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us about the application?
Yes, so,
Yeah.
as you heard, that's a rather long list of variances. There's a lot going on here.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So we have a lot in the Pine Neck subdivision. It's actually a double lot, which is rare. It's a corner lot, so it has 3 road frontages. So that alone makes it a difficult property. The lot is 54.84 feet wide on the Pine Neck side and 54.64 feet wide on the Pine Road side. So having 3 road frontages, we have a number of issues with front yard setbacks. We also have a number of structures. This is a pre-existing non-conforming residence, 1-story, and a detached storage building that have been there prior to zoning. And Mr. and Mrs. Smith have owned the property since 1998. A number of improvements have been done on the property without building permits. So we're here today to legalize what requires variances. Now, some of those, like the sunroom, are an extension of the existing residence and are on a legal deck that does have a certificate of compliance. The swimming pool that was mentioned is an above-ground swimming pool that has its own metal decking with railing around it. That is located as far away from the road as possible, from all roads as possible, and is kind of tucked behind the detached storage building and adjacent to the neighboring property. It's, the pool itself is 7.4 feet where it's supposed to be 8 feet. This is R10 zoning. The decking is 6.6 feet where it's supposed to be 8 feet. Again, tucked as far away from the road as possible. Requires some street setback variances, as mentioned in the list. We're showing corner clearances on the survey. We showed them, I know this is probably something that you don't normally see. It's not something that is normally really looked at, but because of the, I guess, interesting nature, we will call it, of this lot, and the fencing that was put up, it's, that's why I gave you these photos, because I figured the easiest way to describe this is through photographs. So you could actually see what's existing. So you can see it's a picket fence that is not necessarily a straight picket, it's kind of a scalloping. So it's, I believe, 3 feet at the highest, and it scallops down to 2. So we showed corner clearance per the code, which is 50 feet from the actual lot lines, which actually goes through the residence. And then we also showed it from the pavement, which would be more logical, I guess, in a case like this, but is not technically to code, and that only cuts off a small amount of the property. Some of the picket fence is not located on the property line. It's located within the extremely large 25-foot right-of-way that is partially, mostly grass on the Noyak Avenue side of the property, and that we're proposing to relocate to the property line. And there's some minor area that needs to be fixed on the Pine Neck Avenue and Pine Road sides of the property. But it would still be technically within that 50-foot corner clearance on both of those sides. So we showed these photos just because of the nature of the neighborhood and the narrowness of all of the lots. Most of these people who have corner properties are maintaining some kind of a privacy, whether it's a hedge or a fence or something of that nature, just to maintain the limits of their property, so people don't park on it. This property is also very close to Circle Beach, which is literally steps away. And on page 3, photo number 9 of my presentation, I'm showing that Mr. Smith's property is actually used as kind of a overflow parking for Circle Beach, which is why he needs to have some kind of a fence there. Otherwise, people will literally be in his yard, which they pretty much are in this example.
Buyer beware.
So we would like to be able to maintain the fencing on the property line, which would be within that corner clearance. So that's one issue. The sunroom I mentioned is an extension of the house, requires some pyramid relief. It's on the deck that is legal.
And is this the garage that when you say the sunroom, or is that the?
No, the sunroom is right behind
Yeah.
the house. The
Okay.
garage, it was there. There was a well house that was basically right off of the property line. I think that was the .2 feet that Mr. Tuthill read, that is now at 0, and that whole portion of the back, there was an outdoor shower on the west side that was expanded. And we have photos of the garage as well. So if you look at photo number 10, the left side of that photo is the portion of that garage. It's really a storage building that that was kind of rebuilt and expanded to the property line, and that acts as a storage closet for the building.
The part where like the roof line ends and you see the,
Yes.
Yes, right.
But the notes say the garage was converted to finished storage with loft above. Is that the storage building?
That's what we're proposing. It's insulated right now. So we have some photos to show what the inside of the garage looks like.
So wait, did we get off we got off the sunroom?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm kind of moving
We'll,
along.
we'll get back to the sunroom.
Yeah, she's
So-
going through the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so the garage
thought-
currently is still storage space?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes. Mr. Smith would just like to insulate it because he would like to be able to have temperature control in there, and he can speak to the reasoning behind
Can I
that.
just add real quickly?
Mhm.
So we're full-time residents effective last September.
Mhm.
So that's our only place for storage right now. So
Mhm.
everything we used to have in Babylon is now here. So we've thrown everything we can out. Now we want to use this for our storage. So it's exclusively going to be for storage. That's why I
Yeah.
put a loft in there.
And the reason I asked the questions about that and kind of went out of order a little bit is because we have this 1991 variance that says in the minutes of the variance decision, the existing two-car garage shall be used only as storage and shall not be used as additional living space, and applicant shall apply, shall obtain a revised CO which stipulates that this building is for storage. So I want to make sure that that's what it's going to be.
That's
Not
absolutely-
habitable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So even with temperature controls,
Yep.
it's still going to not be habitable living
No,
space.
It's going to be a shop. My wife will have a craft table,
Okay.
storage stuff, kayaks in the wintertime,
Okay.
bikes, et cetera.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So yes, so that's the garage. He did obtain a permit that is still open right now for the skylights that were installed in that loft space in the roof of the garage to provide additional light into the building. So that permit is still open right now. And I think it's because they're waiting for us to proceed with this variance so that they can finish. So I think that Dave Kanji is looking for us
Correct.
to now file for the other structures that require building permits before he does anything to proceed with closing out that permit for the skylights. That's actually what prompted all of us,
Right.
all of this. So, so that's the garage, detached storage building.
But I just want to get back to that for a second, just so the board understands, because whatever is proposed is making the building department think that it's, you know, that this workspace is habitable. So I understand you're saying no, but I just want the board to understand.
Yeah.
You know, because they're basically saying, the plans submitted show the garage converted to finished storage / workshop with storage loft above. So that's what they're saying. And he is saying that they're crafting in it, so what does that mean? There is gonna be heat out there, or?
There is heat, yes.
Which means, makes it look like it's habitable, right? I mean, that's
Well,
habitable space.
It's heated for the purpose of, I store paints there and stuff in the wintertime.
I'm just saying this for the board's
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
purposes.
just,
I don't-
I'm just saying why
Yeah.
I wanted heat, so my paint doesn't freeze and stuff. You have any typical garages or stuff inside your home, no place else to put it. I mean, it's less than 1,000 square foot home. There's literally no room to put anything in there, so that this is a perfect, the building's there, it's a perfect way to do it, so. that's-
Yeah, we would have to, if we decide, I don't know where the board is headed with this, but if we decide to grant the relief for the garage, we would have a condition basically extending what was in the 1991 variance, but then, you know, spelling out, you know, in more detail, no cooking, no living space for any reason, despite the fact that there is going to be temperature control, it is not to be used for living space.
what type of heat did you put in?
I'm sorry?
What type of heat is it?
It's a
It's a mini split.
Yeah, mini
It's a
split.
mini, I mean, it's insulated and heated and cooled now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it
Yeah,
Like
he
these photos.
began the work. He started
Yeah.
the work.
And we're gonna talk about all the as-bills, but we'll, you know,
Okay.
yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, so that, any more questions on the building? Okay, so the swimming pool has been in place since somewhere between 2001 and 2004. And it is an above-ground swimming pool. As I mentioned, that's in photos 17 and 18. Technically, that could be removed in the event that that's necessary. It is utilized every year by the Smiths family. They have grandchildren.
My 5-year-old grandchild would be very disappointed if I had to remove it.
Well, it's also interesting
Not our
that that
fault,
was,
it's your fault.
that, it's interesting that
It's
that
always
was
my fault.
withdrawn from the 1991 relief request, and
Yep.
now it's there, so I don't know.
No,
That-
Was
the
it there
previous
when-
owners
Yeah, that
pulled
was the
back.
prior
Prior
owner.
Prior
owner.
owner.
So-
And that was for an in-ground pool.
Right.
This was an above-ground.
Did you put this in yourselves, or was it the prior?
The
above ground.
Yes, we put it in.
You
Yes.
put it
I
in?
mean, I think most of the, it appears to be, most of the as-bills were done when you've owned the property, that's what it
I
appears to
think
be.
all of them, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair assessment.
Okay, so, did you hire contractors to do this work?
Certainly, yeah, the pool was done by a pool company that did that. I think the answer is yes. You could be Four Seasons Sunrooms, Bohemia, big company, they did the sunroom, the porch.
Yep.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, so these contractors should, if the subject wasn't brought up by you, it should have been brought up by them.
100%.
That this should have been done with permits. And I gotta tell you, particularly with something like a pool, it isn't above ground, it's not an in-ground. People get hurt in pools. People die in pools.
I understand.
So it's very important, in my view, that pools be permitted. Because God forbid, there's something that's put in incorrectly, can have terrible consequences, tragic consequences.
I don't disagree.
So, but there's a lot of as-built here,
Nice.
and there's a lot of things that happen without permits, and so, in a situation where this is what we're dealing with, when people build without permits, the risk is that this board, when the time comes, if and when the time comes that you ask for a variance, the risk is that we deny that relief, and if we deny that relief, all these improvements would have to be removed, which would, I'm sure, cost you a great deal of money. And that's the risk people take when they build without permits. That having been said, we have to consider as-built in a similar fashion in many respects, other than the fact that it's as-built, which means that it's what's called a self-graded hardship, as considering the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to adjacent property owners. But it's harder for us when we have as-bills because they're already there, and we know there's going to be a financial harm to you if we don't grant the relief. On the other hand, we have to consider it, and we have to weigh it. So that's the position that we're in. But maybe you can talk to me a little bit more about why they were built. All these improvements were done without permits.
Well, clearly, in retrospect, I should have known better, and it was a wrong thing to do. I didn't, some things I didn't know I needed a pool, but I should have been aware of that. I mean, excuse me, a permit, but I should have been aware of that. I guess it's just easier. I mean, I can't think of any other reason. I can't say I knowingly did it, but I thought there was the right decisions at the time that I made that turned out to be obviously the wrong decisions.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that you're coming here to try to rectify the situation. But that's what we're confronted with, is figuring out, and I don't know whether you've heard from any of the neighbors, whether any of the neighbors are here or on Zoom. We don't know. Maybe the neighbors are all fine with it. We're gonna find out shortly.
Can I address
Anthony,
that?
did you do any kind of preliminary estimates of what it would cost to remove certain aspects of the already as-built?
No,
All of them. We would wanna have
We
an
would want to
estimate.
have an estimate in the file.
Not because we want you to remove them, but because we wanna have in the file what the financial impact would be if we were to
I think
deny
not
the
quite just that,
variances.
but okay. I understand. Yes, I understand.
And then this is
I'm
big
not
as built.
making I'm not making less
AEDs
of it, I'm
right out
sorry.
in the hallway, right?
We do this with everybody with
We do.
as-built, because it's just helpful in terms of the record.
Yeah.
Can I address, you mentioned something about people speaking?
Yes.
I did speak to, there's 9 letters that went out to the surrounding neighbors.
Yes.
6 of those 9 I've spoken to, and I have letters from 2 of them.
Yes, which we received.
Okay, and I've spoken to at least 5 others there that have no problem with it. So I have their names and addresses for the record.
Well, we're gonna find out.
Excuse me?
We're gonna find out.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
I welcome, please do that.
Oh, we might know right now. You see.
I watched some of these just to get a feel for it, you know, because I knew I was gonna be in a hot seat.
How your neighbors?
Does anybody have a hand up? Because I know that's a question that always comes up.
Your neighbors
I'm not gonna turn around. Is there a hand up?
We haven't asked yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But honestly, even if we don't have any of the neighbors, we have to look at how close these structures are to property lines, anyway. So.
So, one of the, I've spent, Marge and I have spent quite an extensive amount of time trying to, figure out all the variances necessary for all these structures, because this is kind of a unique property and there's a lot going on here. We've also been through two iterations of the survey. And one thing that Marjorie brought up is apparently there's a new interpretation by the building department about above-ground propane tanks, that the chief building inspector is looking at them now, that they need to meet accessory setbacks, where about a year and a half ago, I didn't need a variance for a propane tank. I just needed to meet fire code, which I think was 3 feet off the property line. So one thing that we did not necessarily apply for, but Marge brought up in her denial letter, was the existing propane tanks that are just off of the property line. I showed them in my photos 25 and 26. There is no place 8 feet off of the property line that would accommodate these. That would also work with the current hookup to the house. So we would also seek to maintain these propane tanks in their existing location, if possible.
Are they supposed to have an 8-foot setback, is that what you're saying, or?
Apparently, this is something that has
Thought it was 10,
been
but that
recently
might be 8.
determined.
She can't make 8, she's only gonna
No,
make
I
10.
just,
No, I just, you need,
Well,
we
it's
would
R
need to know.
10, so the accessory setback would be 8 feet.
We would need to know what your setback is. What
is
it
it?
is. What, not,
Oh,
what
right
it
now,
is.
it's on this survey.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what the building department's doing now, having people put propane tanks a distance away from the
What is it?
residents.
What's the
14
setback?
pound.
Yeah.
It can't be 10 feet from a window.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not, it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
on the survey, but I need to revise the survey anyway, because Marjorie's asking for me to take the second corner clearance line off that we showed.
Okay.
They're right here.
They're on there, but they don't say what the setback is.
Right. Well, they're right on the property line.
I mean, is there any movement for them? I mean, you say you can't meet the setback, but is it something where you could move them back a little bit from the property line?
Well, we have an issue with the sanitary system. There's a lot I mean,
I
this is
don't
a
see
small
this-
lot, so there's
Yeah,
kind of,
I
everything's
understand, but
crammed in.
I'm just saying that if, what is the concern being that if it's right on the property line and it explodes? I mean, you know, is that what the
Yeah, and
concern
there's
is?
a final shed within feet of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a shed on the next
It's a
lot,
fire hazard
right? I mean,
to the neighbor.
do you see what I'm saying? Is that what the concern, in addition
Well,
to
I'm not
interpreting the
sure,
code, but,
like I said, I had a property about a year and a half ago where the propane tanks were right on the property line, and I had spoken to the building department at that time, and they said it just needed to meet fire code, which I believe was either 3 feet or 3 to 4 feet or something like that off of the property line.
well, that's not doing it.
Oh, I see. So it's the property line, not the being next to the house?
Yeah.
No, it's the property, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I know,
That
I
just actually
had,
makes more
I had
sense.
propane tanks that were right on my house.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
the
just
house is,
bury
yeah.
them.
Well, can you bury them? That was my next question. Can you bury these propane
No.
tanks?
In fact, they're strapped, the picture that Daphne's referencing, it's on a cement pad and they're strapped. And the reason for that is that area floods, and during Sandy, actually,
Oh, so if
they
you,
floated away.
you put
So
them
the
underground.
water
it wouldn't
table
work.
is,
Yeah, okay.
it's inches
Okay.
deep.
We are in a flood zone here. It's AE 6.
And there's a septic tank, the septic system is just to the right of, if you look at this bottom picture, the septic system is over here. You can actually see the cover, the browned area.
This here?
And then there's this entrance to the crawl space just behind the other hedge. So it's really filled out.
I don't know, that's tricky. That's a tricky one, I think.
Yeah. And that's a tricky one, and then the
That's a
corner,
tricky
and the corner clearance issue raises some concerns for me.
Was that variance advertised?
No.
No.
It wasn't,
it is.
Chief.
It's the last.
The propane tank?
No, the corner clearance.
No,
Yeah.
no, the
No, no,
propane
not
tank
propane
is not.
tank.
No, the
Pro-
propane
propane
tank
was not.
is in the notes.
Right,
It's in the
right.
notes.
No, corner clearance is a different issue for me, which is,
Right.
you know, if we have people that are not doing what they're not supposed to do, parking, that is, people going to the beach, parking on the applicant's property, should we be granting relief because people are doing what they're supposed, other people are not doing what they're supposed to do? And that's,
But I think this is a very small lot.
it is.
And,
it is.
you know, for them to meet the 50-foot setback is ridiculous. I mean, they're never gonna be able to do
Can't
that,
do
so.
it. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I also am sympathetic that people are parking on you wanna protect your property. You don't want them parking on your lot. So, but, it's a small piece of property. To
Mm-hmm.
meet the corner requirements would really be difficult, I think.
Well, that's why we showed the two lines, because from
Yeah.
the true property line, it literally goes right through the house.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm. Well, I'm concerned about the precedent that would set.
Yeah, no, I know what you, I know what you're saying.
Mhm.
This board has granted corner clearance before.
I would have granted corner clearance before, but the reasoning for the corner clearance in this instance being people parking on a person's private property is pretty extraordinary to me.
I don't think that's the only reason.
Yeah, it's just maintaining your property boundaries
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Where is this, what segment of the property is photo 9 where people are parking? Is that in the rear
It's
yard
Noyak.
on Noyak?
It's on Noyak.
It's here.
Noack Avenue.
Noyak Ave, and they
Right.
park in
Right,
like that, kind of headed towards your pool and towards your
Yeah.
backyard?
Yeah.
right. I mean,
That's just
that's not
customary?
frequent. I don't want to give you guys the wrong impression, but on holidays and people without stickers, and when the lot does get full quickly, they just find the side streets. And
Yeah,
I happen
sure.
to be prime territory, because I have 25 feet from the road to where the property line is. So there's plenty of green space there for them to pull up.
Right.
So that's.
It is a very large right-of-way, which is,
Is this fence on your property line?
no.
That is not on the property line.
So we're proposing to
move
relocate
that
it
back.
to the property line, so it would be.
They're gonna get another
even-
10 feet of right of way.
So it's actually on the right of way?
Yes.
I think I probably should have, I think we read that.
It's
Yeah.
here.
It's,
That's the fence.
Yeah, in the notes, it's in the notes.
Moving the fence back to
So they
the
wanna
actual
move it
property
back
line
to the
makes it
property
worse,
line.
actually. Because
For
it gives
you.
them more.
Yeah, it gives them more space to
come on.
come on.
Right.
But that you have to do.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
that's
I'm
not
not
a-
arguing.
They also
for that,
will
just-
be relocating their current parking, because technically the existing driveway, because the right-of-way is so large, is not within their meets and bounds of the property. So the parking has to be relocated elsewhere. So we're proposing to relocate the driveway coming off of Pine Road.
In the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that they'll legally have the 2 parking spaces that are required within the limits of their lot.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to ask about the sunroom, John?
No, I thought that we were still on the sunroom. I didn't realize that we had moved to the garage.
Well,
Well, you didn't
do
really
you have a
cover the
question for
sunroom now.
sunroom?
Yeah, let's talk about the sunroom.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the sunroom was built by you?
4 Seasons, yes.
Okay.
Is it prefab?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just sits right on
Yeah.
the deck. So it's not, it doesn't have a foundation per se, it's just, and that's not, it's not heated.
Where is it in your pictures?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
it's-
electric heat.
Towards the back.
So
Oh,
no,
I
we don't
see
have
it.
the propane.
Is this photo 22?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that just requires some pyramid variance because of the close proximity of the house to the lot line in that location. But otherwise, it is in line with the residents at the same setback.
This is a lot of as-bills. It is extraordinary. Yep.
No public flogging, Mr. Grossman?
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know. Does it bother you, Keith? I can remember an application a while ago when we had pretty much a whole house without permits.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
remember that? Whole house, entire
I may
house.
say the ironic part
Oh, yeah.
about this is I wanted to do this to make sure that my children and their children wouldn't go through this
You're
later
right to
on.
do it. You're right to
And,
do it. I
so
mean, yeah.
My intention was good, and I do apologize
No, your
for having
intention is
gone this
good.
way.
Right.
The person who built the whole house, we made them rip off the sections of the house that were non-conforming. It cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just so you know.
You trying to make me feel good?
I'm just letting you know.
I
That's the risk
I-
people take.
I totally understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I just say, in terms of the board, if we were looking at this as a proposal, would we have objections to some of these setbacks and other things? I mean, let's look at it from that point of view. Bob, you want to say?
Probably only the propane, because that's
The
the issue.
propane worries me.
Everything else I'm okay with, but the propane, I don't know what's the town on that? Is there a new?
This is the first I'm hearing of,
Yeah.
of this before.
Yeah.
In a situation like this, I want to defer to
Microphone.
we would defer to the fire marshal and the fire district. Tell us,
Right.
what do you want us to do with these things in most
That's what I
realistic
would like
case?
to hear about the
No,
propane.
they will not, they're not gonna weigh in on this.
Right,
They're not.
right.
Because they're gonna say, if the policy, according to Daphne, the policy before was that they just had to conform
It
with
was a fire code before,
the fire code.
Right, right.
so
So
I was
don't-
surprised when Marge told me that now it needs to meet an accessory setback. So, I don't know, it's a different interpretation.
Well, what does the fire code require?
Well, I have to find my notes on that other property, but it was not 8 feet. It was
Yeah,
definitely
but even if it
not.
were like 4 feet, you're not, I don't think you're at 4 feet, you're like right there.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
pretty close.
I think you're probably, whether it's fire code
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
they're probably not in compliance under fire code.
Right, right. And I can see why it would be a concern to a neighbor. I can see it. I mean, God forbid something went wrong with that propane tank.
Actually, that's one of the letters I have from that neighbor on that property line.
I understand, but the building department, their
Understand.
position
Raise
is
your
what it is.
liability insurance,
Yes.
that's all. you know
It's
what I mean?
interesting, though, that they'd be more
Right up the
concerned
top of
about
my
being
head.
on a property line as opposed to being up against my house.
Right.
I mean, if it blows up, isn't my house gonna be affected probably more so than, say, the plastic shed?
Yes, but you're not affecting your next door neighbor. That's
You're
the
affecting
key.
yourself.
You're allowed to
choosing-
blow yourself. You can blow yourself
You
up.
just
Can't
well,
blow
that's-
your neighbor.
That's good to hear, thank you. Thank you for your concern.
I wouldn't have too many objections if this were just, if this is a new application and all of this was proposed, we might tweak it a little bit here and there, but I wouldn't have as many objections. I mean, I understand Adam's concern. I mean, it's pretty enormous, the amount of, as-bills that we have to consider here. But in terms of the other things, I personally don't have a lot of problem with, other than the propane tank.
Yeah, I mean, I would say find a letter from somebody who can tell you that the propane tank can't be moved, or that's the best location. Because you won't get that from the fire marshal.
And
The fire marshal
also,
is not
we'd
gonna
like to
do
know
this.
what the cost would be to do, to put all this stuff in conformity, so, or remove it.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what that is.
Which I know is gonna be a big number, but we need that number.
Yeah,
Yeah, broken down.
Well, it's impossible to really put any of it in conformity because
No, I
there's
understand.
no way.
Yeah.
Other
So
than
it'll be
eliminate
removed,
it.
It'll be removed.
Yeah.
like the pool,
Yeah.
eliminate, yeah.
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 Oh, yeah. We had another application, just for your information about the kind of what we deal with sometimes, where a prefab house was put on the wrong lot in a subdivision. Nothing, no permit, nothing. They landed on the wrong lot. So just another example of the things that we see. It's rare stuff like
That's
this.
crazy.
But, we want people to get the permits, we want people to do the right thing, and I understand that, sometimes circumstances are, make it difficult, but then that's, that is a concern. But that having been said, Susan, I agree with you that for the most part, luckily, what's being proposed is not gonna have a significant negative impact to speak up on the adjacent property owners, but we have to wait and hear to see if there's anybody who's waiting to be heard on this one. So,
Yeah, so
okay.
let's do this.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have an issue with the propane tanks for safety. I mean, I would not vote to approve allowing the propane tanks to stay there. I don't know what that will require you to do, what your options are, but that's just on one vote. Are you not requesting to actually do some additional building here now in that back area?
No.
No?
Just insulation in the,
Okay, just insulation, all right. There's so much here, I'm trying to digest it.
yeah.
Okay.
And the storage, the accessory structure, the storage was built before, by the previous?
Yes.
Yeah,
Garage.
there was just that,
It was a two-car garage,
yeah,
right?
that back portion was partially existing, it was just reconstructed.
And the variance was solely for the purpose of turning it into storage,
The variance.
Was for
the
heating.
previous
from-
one.
The variance from before, just,
Oh, what was it?
I
Said that
didn't
it
get a
was
copy of
to-
it.
It's in the
yeah, it
packet.
should be in the
there.
packet.
It wasn't in my packet.
It was.
It's confusing because it's an old one, so it's just a.
It says
You know what it
91.
was, is that
So
variance,
it's from 1991,
Was-
so it's variance number 9078 dated March 7th,
It was,
1991, and then there are minutes, and the minutes are actually
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
it was a condition of
Correct.
the variance for this small addition to the side of the house. This, where the propane tanks
Yeah,
are.
the request was for a existing deck and proposed pool and deck, see attached minutes. And then in that decision, it has.
Through the pool.
The existing two-car garage shall be used only as storage and shall not be used as additional living space, and the applicant shall obtain a revised CO which stipulates that this building is for storage.
Yeah,
So that's, and then next sentence further, I move to grant applicants request to withdraw their application for a proposed swimming pool. So,
So what you have, what's been put on this property since you've owned it, Mr. Smith, is the pool and the sunroom, is that right?
Correct.
Anything else?
there's a hot tub that also
Hot tub,
requires legalization,
outdoor
but that
shower.
doesn't need
A variance.
It was
a
there.
variance.
It was there.
Yeah.
The propane tanks were there also in the courthouse?
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't think they were shown on the survey.
Yeah.
okay, any other questions?
I
Is there anyone in the
I
board?
had one
I'm
question,
sorry.
just for Daphne to follow up with Marge about her comment with the FEMA. You know, she said something about substantial construction or.
Yeah, she had mentioned that to me, and I had compared this to a pool house, essentially, that it's not, since it's not habitable space, it shouldn't need to meet FEMA. So she had suggested that I contact Art Gerhauser, who suggested that we have an inspection. So I guess about 2 weeks ago, Mr. Smith requested an inspection, and because inspections are so backed up, he can't have one until
24th.
the 26th?
No, 26th, correct.
Yeah,
Sorry.
which is next week? I don't even know.
Next week, yeah.
It is?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Just let the board know what the update is from that.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the boardroom who's waiting to be heard in connection with the application of Smith for our property located at 74 Pine Neck Avenue in Noyak? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 74 Pine Neck Avenue in Noyak? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one on Zoom. Okay. If not, Mike, it's yours.
Well, I'd like to keep it open, and ask, first of all, we'd like to get information on what it would cost to remove the structures that are not permitted. I'd like to know what you propose to do with the propane tanks. I mean, part of the reason that there's not place to put propane tanks is because you have unpermitted structures in the way, you know? So, I don't know keep it open or have that all responded to by writing? Does anybody have any opinions on that? I
I'd
mean,
like them to come back.
I'd like you to come back with,
With some more information.
yeah,
Okay.
more information about what you intend to do with the propane tanks, and the cost of removing these things. And you may think about it, and you may decide to give something up. I don't know. I'm okay with the pool. I understand the fence and several of the things, but the propane tanks is my biggest concern.
At this point, I would go without heat.
Yeah, right.
Before I would give up some of the other stuff.
Socks and sweaters, right? That's the answer. So when would you like to come back with that information and your thinking about how you want to proceed?
Anytime I get that information,
2 weeks, 4 weeks?
next couple of days.
We have 6/1 is our next meeting, 6/15 is the meeting after.
6/1 is the
I
next meeting.
can't come June 1st.
Okay?
Sixth, the 15th?
June 15th?
Yes? I think so?
7/6.
No. June 15th should be fine. Let's do June 15th.
Wait long enough, I could use the pool all summer. Kidding.
You're going to be okay with the...
Okay,
so
so
we're
that's
going
the
to leave this, open, and we'll see you again on June 15th.
Okay, that's a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mrs. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you both for being here. Have a good rest of your night. Thank you, everybody.
The photos are very helpful, though.
Thank
Yes,
you.
they were very helpful.
Great for time.
I'll thank my husband.
All right, item 2 on the new applications is Stephen Andrew Fuchs, 25 Tansy Lane in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-54-3-13. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code to legalize the location of a detached garage. 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow said garage to be located within the minimum and total required side yard and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction?
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the zoning board of appeals. John Azelo for Harris Beach PLC, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Suite 901, Uniondale, New York, 11553. Attorneys for the applicant. So thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation before you tonight. The applicant wished to be here tonight, but due to some family situation, they have to do this remotely. They're both available via Zoom, which is Stephen Fuchs and Abby Fuchs, his wife. We're here tonight with respect to their application for side yard variance approvals in connection with the construction of a new detached garage at 25 Tansy Lane in Bridgehampton. As a matter of housekeeping, the affidavit of mailing and posting were both filed, and we also just filed some exhibits that we're relying upon in connection with the application tonight. To put the application in context, the subject property is located along the approximately 1,200-foot-long strip of Tansy Lane, which is developed. The balance of Tansy Lane is abutted by preserved open space owned by the town, including the parcel to the immediate north of the subject property. The applicant is requesting relief associated with the structure located within the side yard and combined side yards. As I will note later, and have already noted in the application and the exhibits filed in support of the application, there are similar side yard setbacks and combined side yards in the developed area along Tansy Lane. These conditions did not require variance relief, however, as all of these homes in the areas, including the subject home, appear to have been developed pursuant to the R20 and R15 zoning as a planned development. Since the homes in the area were developed, the applicable zoning standards appear to have been changed, which renders the once permitted setbacks non-conforming and requires the applicant to seek a variance to construct improvements within similar side yard setbacks to other residents presently located along Tansy Lane. Similar non-conforming conditions also exist on the north side of the subdivision, generally located along Woodruff Lane, which I have submitted documents about for this board's reference. At this time, for the record, I will briefly go through the 5 factors for variance relief as they relate to the property, which I have submitted in greater detail to this board at the start of the hearing. The variances will not produce an impact on adjacent properties in the neighborhood because the relief is substantially similar to existing conditions in the area which predate the current side yard restrictions on properties in the residential subdivision. Detached garages with similar side yard setbacks and combined side yard setbacks exist at 32 Tansy Lane, 40 Tansy Lane, 47 Tansy Lane, 55 Tansy Lane, 59 Tansy Lane, as well as one house to the south of the subject property at the corner of Tansy Lane and Worcester Court, which is the address of 1 Worcester Court. The variances are not substantial since they are in general conformance with these existing conditions in the surrounding area, including the 2-car garage at 47 Tansy Lane, and the 1-car garage at 1 Worcester Court, and the combined side yards at 55 and 59 Tansy Lane, all with similarly setback detached garages. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved without a variance, since the existing location of the house and the property necessitates siting the garage within the required side yard. The variances will not cause an adverse effect on the environment because the garage is in substantial conformance with other homes with detached garages in the immediate area surrounding the subject property. Further, the neighboring home to the southeast, which is the closest to the proposed garage, has a 40-foot setback to the property line, effectively creating an over 50-foot setback from the garage to the neighboring residence. While the variance is partially self-created, by virtue of the fact that it is a new structure, and thus, of course, is self-created, the variance relief is also necessitated by the more restrictive setbacks being applied to the property than when others in the subdivision were constructed, as well as the existing location of the home. Further, the applicant's satisfaction of the other 4 factors weighs substantially in favor of granting the variance. As I mentioned, both Stephen Fuchs and his wife are the co-owners of the property, and they're available by Zoom. We are happy to answer any questions this board may have, but otherwise we respectfully request the board to grant the requested variances and submit that the application is in accordance with the 5-factor test set forth in SASA v. Osgood and New York State Town Law, Section 267B3B, for the reasons provided tonight and in the application for materials. Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, so I guess I just want to speak with, I guess, the applicants about, how the garage, with facts and circumstances related to the garage being built without approvals, so that we can get that information from them.
Sure, I don't know if they can
Yep.
put their hands up.
Okay. Kevin, looking for Stephen Fuchs and his wife. They should be hopefully on Zoom.
Abby, it's the link I forwarded you from Candace. I can start with saying that they filed an application in January actually of 2022. They told me that they believe that they thought they had the permit, but obviously they did not. They later received building permits for some other improvements, particularly to their basement, which was part of the original filed permit, and also for the outdoor area for a spa. And actually, that's even Abby Fuchs right there.
Okay. Okay. We can see you. I don't know if we can hear you. Can you hear us?
We can hear you now.
Okay, okay, very good. I just have to swear you both in. I hope if one of you is driving, I don't want anyone raising their hand if they're driving.
Well, actually, Abby's an attorney. I believe Stephen is as well.
Oh, if you're attorneys, then I don't have to swear you in. Okay. You're attorneys.
But you still gotta
Stephen
tell
is
the
not?
truth.
Okay, then Stephen, I just have to swear you in. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Abby Fuchs, 25 Tansy Lane, Bridgehampton, New York.
Okay.
Stephen Fuchs, 25 Tansy Lane, Bridgehampton, New York.
Okay, very good. Well, Abby, I don't have to swear you in, but Stephen, if you swear, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. I'm also an attorney.
He's also.
Oh, you're an attorney. Okay, we weren't sure whether either of you was attorney. You're both attorneys. Okay, so I didn't have to swear you in. Anyway, so I just wanted to ask if you could let us know what happened with the situation with the attached garage, because we have it as a relief to legalize it, and we just wanted to ask if you could tell us about what happened in terms of it being built without permits.
We had permits for finishing our basement, and I believe it was linked with the garage, and we submitted all of the permits at the same time, and we believed, and everyone involved believed, that the permits were all together, grouped together, and as soon as we learned that there was an issue related to that, the work completely stopped, and there's been just a slab and like sticks of wood since we learned of that we needed a variance for this. So we stopped immediately. There was no other work. We were finishing the basement, and doing this. When we applied for the application, it was all linked together, or we thought it was all linked together.
Yeah.
Our contractor thought it was all linked together, and that it was just basically a mistake.
Okay, so an application was applied for, but this part of the application, I guess, couldn't, the building department couldn't, I guess at some point realized that a variance was needed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It was just sort of a mistake, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
And we were doing, as I said, we were finishing the basement, we were putting in a hot tub, and it was linked together. And then because of that, it was actually separated, and we had to get another permit for the other work, which we did, but the work on the garage, and I don't know if you have photos of it, completely stopped. It's not a garage, it's
Okay.
a couple of pieces of wood in the air and a slab. There's
Okay.
no garage. It was stopped immediately
Right.
when we learned of this. We're both attorneys, we stopped immediately as soon as we learned of this.
Yeah, okay, no, I very much appreciate the explanation. We ask these questions of any applications where we have, almost any applications where we have as-built structures. So I appreciate the explanation.
Was
Yes.
the original garage what you converted now into a pool house?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you had a garage, it was in the backyard, and it's now being used as a pool house. So now you're
That is
looking
correct.
for a variance to put it in your side yard.
That is correct.
To build the new garage in front of the pool house, the old
Right,
garage, which
right.
is now a pool house.
Right.
And we, if I may, we looked at houses that are very similar to ours in the neighborhood and saw what they had and liked what they had and wanted to do what they had done. That's where we got the idea from.
Yeah.
Well, I commend you for stopping. Some people don't stop.
If you have any pictures, you will see the eyesore that it has been since we learned that we needed a variance.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Well, sorry about that.
Okay, any other questions of the applicants? No. Okay, all right.
Hey, he's
Is
got
there
a-
anything else you want to tell us?
Please?
We just want to thank the members of the board for your time, patience, and consideration. It's a little bit embarrassing for two attorneys to be in this situation. We hope that the board will grant the variance.
I'm sorry we couldn't be
You have a
there
copy of the
ahead of
denial
time.
sheet?
I think
Yes.
Can I ask a question, Katie?
A family
Because this is
situation, we were trying to get to you, and we could not.
So you'll deal with the
Okay.
planning department?
Thank you.
Yes, there's actually an application already filed for that.
Okay,
We already filed for it,
and,
we've already had the inspection done for, tell us what to
And you're gonna,
replant.
you're
We're
gonna go
filing
down downstairs to the building department, and you're gonna legalize the
Trellis.
trellis.
We actually have it, we filed a building permit for that in January, it's actually on the January building permit from last year, I don't know why it wasn't approved as part of it, but the answer is yes, obviously we'll.
You'll take care of
We'll
it?
do whatever we
All
need
right.
to take care of that.
I just wanted to ask Katie, with detached garages and side yards, do we usually, approve that? I mean, do we require them to attach them to the house, so it's part of the original structure, or?
No, I mean, then they'd have to comply with the principal setback,
Okay.
so it's,
Okay.
it's really, sometimes we do that when there's an interpretation that it's too big,
Okay, okay.
because then you don't have to deal with that interpretation, but in terms of, this seems like it complies with size, complies with pyramid, it's just the placement and the
Okay,
required yard.
just wanted to check.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys want an estimate, to,
No,
huh?
I'm okay with it.
No,
Do
really?
you want an estimate?
An estimate
How
to get rid
difficult
of what
would
they
it be?
started?
Of what, to remove it?
To remove the
Yes.
slab?
No,
Remove to conform
no,
location.
no,
Okay,
no,
just
no.
asking, very
Okay.
good.
Well, one other question.
Anybody
These
else
poor
out there?
people.
Oh, hold on a second, please. I have one more question. So we did have in our building department notes about that the property appears to be overcleared shall be addressed with the planning division. I just want to
So,
make sure
yeah,
you're
we've
aware.
actually already filed an application
I
with the
just
planning
went over
division.
that with him.
It's actually on the surveys before your board, actually showing where the restoration area is.
Okay.
And we have the application filed, we've already had the inspection done, they told us what we need to plant.
Okay.
The next step is to file the replanting plan.
Okay, very good. All right, any other questions?
So, are we, the relief, what is the relief we're being asked to give?
The placement of it, the placement of the garage within the.
Within the
minimum
side
of
yard.
the Total
Yeah.
required side.
So there's
Yeah.
no,
Side yard
you know,
setback.
setback relief, it's just that it's being placed in a side yard instead of a rear yard.
Yeah. Oh, it's a side yard and total side.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, is there anyone who's here in the audience who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application of Fuchs for property located at 25 Tansy Lane in Bridgehampton? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 25 Tansy Lane in Bridgehampton? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands,
Seeing and
okay.
hearing no one, I'm gonna move to close it. Written submissions, by 6/2 with a determination 6/16.
Second.
6:15.
6:15.
Yeah,
Second.
yeah. Okay, Mr. Tunhill,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here.
all.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Best wishes.
So long.
Sorry, I missed that, Keith. You covered all the bases for me.
Okay, item 4 on the agenda is Juan Carlos Trellis, 25 Fordham Drive in Hampton Bay, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-264-3-29. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed one-story addition on a non-conforming lot. 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a minimum required side yard setback of 10.6 feet where 20 feet is required, and a total required side yard setback of 24.2 feet where 45 is required. And 2, 330-84D, pyramid height for a total pyramid encroachment of 231 cubic feet existing, 18.91 cubic feet on the west side, and proposed 211.83 cubic feet on the east side, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction?
Good evening. Someone here on behalf of the applicant?
I'm on Zoom.
On Zoom, okay.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes, hi.
Yes, can you hear us okay? I just have to swear you in
Yeah, with the phone.
with the phone, okay. If you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Nicholas Capucci, Cappucci. I work with Todd O'Connell Architects.
Okay?
1200 Veterans Highway, Suite 120, Hop Pod, New York, 11788.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can tell us about the application.
So here just representing Mr. Trellis today, and I'm just gonna put the phone down, because when I'm talking, I hear that on the phone too. So I'll just have to, when I see you guys speak, I'll just jump on the phone again.
Okay,
But so we're just doing a modest addition to the back of the house. It is a single-family dwelling. It is on a non-conforming lot. The lot size is 75 by 135, which yields us to a 10,000 square foot lot. We are supposed to be on a 20,000 square foot lot here. The lot width is 75, and we should have 120. So with this non-conforming lot, this is where kind of most of these variances are coming from. With the addition that we're trying to propose, it is kind of a continuation or continuance of a non-conforming condition. We were in talks with building inspector Arthur G. about trying to convert or go back to the other non-conforming code of 330-115, which some of these issues wouldn't even arise if we were falling under that code, which we did do a single and separate title search with a title company, which I believe you guys do have, from Pyramid. And dating from back to 1938 of when we discovered or our far research back, it is a single and separate property, which it should be conforming to this non-conforming continuation code in the town of
I reviewed it, it
Southampton
is.
code ordinance. So with that being said, we are asking for a side yard setback from the R20 zoning, which should be a side yard of 20 feet. We're asking for 10.6 feet. And then triggering the aggregate side yard again of 24.2 feet instead of the required 45 feet. With this also is the sky exposure plane. We are doing a single one-story addition in the back. The sky exposure plane really triggers from the initial front of the house and the existing conditions of the house. We are not making it really any worse. Again, it's a one-story addition. You won't even see this from the street or curb appeal. It will be the same look of the house from the front. We are doing some interior alterations where we will, alter the front with front windows and stuff like that of the existing house. That's basically it. Oh, and then the rear yard. Since we are doing the rear addition, the rear yard on this lot requires a 60-foot setback, and now we're proposing a 55.4 setback. And I just wanted to also note, if we did fall under the non-conforming, the 330-115, our side yard would be a minimum of 10-foot required, so we would not even need that, as well as the rear yard has a 30-foot setback, and we would not even need that.
I'm sorry, what did you say it makes the rear yard?
The rear yard we're asking for is 55.4 feet as a relief from the 60 feet from the R20. But in the non-conforming code 330-115, the rear yard would have only been a minimum of 30 feet required.
Okay.
So we would have been beyond that by 25 feet.
Okay, and I see Steve Grossman, who's no relation to me, is also here on Zoom. Have you had a chance to speak with Mr. Grossman at all in connection with this application?
No.
Okay, okay, all right. Any other questions of the agent for the applicant? Okay,
I did look at the single and separate, it is single and separate.
okay, very good. Okay, if not, Steve, us want to hear what you would like to tell us about this application. I think you probably have to unmute yourself first.
I don't know how this allocation got linked as well, but I was more concerned with number 3 and the adjourn application, so.
Okay.
He's not on this.
Oh, you're on a different application. This is the application of Trellis. We're
Yes,
hearing the
ma'am.
application of Trellis, so it's not yours, okay. All right, no worries, then we'll talk to you shortly.
Well, Windy Hill has been adjourned.
But
Which
we have
Windy,
five.
one
But
hasn't.
number 5 hasn't.
Oh, number 5, 4 Windy Hill hasn't, 2 has.
Okay,
Number 3 has, that's it.
so, yes.
When you use chances, ask Nico to spell his first name. I think it's Nico, and his first name was
Oh,
the architect.
yeah. Just wanted to ask you if you can spell your name out for us, for our records, your full name, please?
Nicholas, Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Last name's Capucci, Cappucci.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, so Nicholas, Mr. Grossman's here on another application. So, anyway, so I'm just going to ask if there's anyone from the public to be heard. So, well, let me do that.
Can we just
Yes.
clarify?
Sure.
So we're asking for, what are we asking for if the single and separate? If the single, so
Well-
we're not asking for a rear yard setback, correct? Because that would be 30 feet and you're doing 54.4. And what about side yard? It's now
If you want me to-
10.6 and are we, did we do the calculation of what the side yard would be?
I don't see the rear yard.
It's not even advertised, but he
Right,
said
so
that
it's-
if they're.
So it's the total possibly the total required side, I'm not sure. And then pyramid.
Okay, pyramid I got, but what are we doing in the terms of the side yard now? What are we?
It's the 10.6.
But if it's single and separate, does he
Correct.
need to even get that?
No.
No, so we don't need to do
We
the
just need
side
pyramid.
yard bit.
We
So
don't
now-
need to do the minimum required side. I don't know what the total side is, so we'll have to confirm that with the building department.
Okay, and then
Okay.
the pyramid, okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify, okay.
Okay, all right.
I guess if I could just clarify too. Because I'm not sure if they're gonna recognize it as single and separate,
They will.
or authors recognizing it as single and separate.
They're going to when
We're
we-
gonna recognize it as
They-
single.
they will.
I guess,
They will.
Granted on what is presented before you from the art.
Right.
You're
zone.
talking to a shoulder.
Put your, yeah.
They will
recognize it.
recognize it once we tell them.
When we tell them it's single and separate, they will recognize it as single and separate.
Okay.
Okay?
So then, based on that too, it would be aggregate, because on the 330-115 is zoned for non-conforming D zone, aggregate would be 25 feet, and I'm asking for 24.2, 24.1 feet.
So
So it would
probably
be the
don't need
aggregate,
anything.
then it would
He
be,
needs 24.2 where 25 is
the sky
required.
exposure.
Oh, okay.
And then the rear yard and the side yard.
24.2, we're 25.
Okay, so we'll get clarification as to exactly what relief is needed. But I think at this point, we have everything we need. We just have to find out whether there is anyone in opposition. So in terms of the neighbors.
Anybody here?
Yep, anyone here? So is there anyone here in connection with the application of Trellis? This is a property located at 25 Fordham Drive in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is a property located at 25 Fordham Drive in Hampton Bays? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one on Zoom? Okay, if not, Helen, it's yours.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing today. We'll leave it open for written submissions to June 2nd with a decision on June 15th.
Second.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
All right.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much for being here.
Excellent, thank you.
Being here on Zoom, I should say. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. Have a good
Moving
night.
right along, Keith. Moving right along.
All right, give me 1 second here. All right. What we have next is under new adjourned applications, 1127 Noyak Path LLC, 4 Windy Hill Lane, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-36-2-16.7.
Mine says 4. That one says 4. I don't know what happened.
Okay, Ron, when you
It's confusing, but we're here for 4.
Top one is the original.
Okay.
That was the original that
That's-
came
The
last
application
time.
is gonna be
Yes.
advertised for June 1st. That's when you have in your hand.
Okay.
There is another one that says 4.
Okay.
May I start?
Yes.
I'm Alice Cooley.
Unless, yes, you're an attorney, I don't have to swear you.
I'm an attorney.
You're an attorney, okay.
This is my partner, David Kirst. He's an attorney. And this is Siu Liu.
Okay. Who's not an
She is
attorney? I
not
can-
an attorney.
And I can swear her in if you'd like.
Sure thing, swear her
Okay.
in.
Okay, very good. If you can state your name and address, please.
This is Leo, I'm the architect for the project. The address is 70 Main Street, Southampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right.
Okay, so there are 2 parts to this application, as you know. The first is the challenge to the building inspector's determination, and the second is the variance in case that you do not agree with us. So I'm going to ask my partner David here to present the appeal, and then I will present the variance standards.
Okay.
We also just handed out a package, which we will refer to a bunch of these materials tonight. We have various diagrams showing how the interpretation affects this lot and how it affects other lots, the old interpretation versus the new interpretation, and then a revised site plan, which actually eliminates the need for the variance if the board does agree with us. And I think, oh, and there's an aerial right at the end.
Okay.
You're on, Dave.
All right. Evening, David Kirst, Matthews, Kirst and Cooley. As Alice said, we are here for challenging the determination of a building inspector. The determination found that the proposed tennis court is located in the required side yard of the principal building. We have submitted a diagram showing the difference between the prior interpretation and the position the building department is now taking. That is this diagram that's in the packet that you just received.
Okay.
The area that is hash marked in red is the area that would be currently allowed, and the area that's hash marked in blue is the area that was previously allowed. That the design of this lot was based off of that interpretation and discussions with the building department, was designed that way, was submitted that way, and then the interpretation was changed. So you'll see there is a small area on the bottom of that tennis court that is in that blue area, and that would be what the relief we'd be looking for if you do not agree with our challenge of the interpretation. It's our contention that the proposed tennis court is entirely in the rear yard and does not encroach into the required side yard of the principal building. The definitions of front yard, rear yard, and side yard, as contained in section 330-5, fully support this position. The town's own residential zoning overview booklet also supports this position. In discussing required side yards, the zoning booklet states, these setbacks apply to the side yard space between the front and rear walls of the principal structure and are tightly regulated. The past practices of the building department also support this position. Our office has submitted surveys from 5 properties that's in the material that was just passed out this evening that show accessory structures and buildings in the same areas of the lots that are now our clients being told needs relief. So the past history of the building department, the past writings of the town in their zoning booklet all support the position that our client is taking here. And now to assist in this presentation, if you can flip to, I believe it's the 3rd piece of material in your packet. And unfortunately, I'm going to go through the definitions of the yards and this diagram to illustrate our point. So, front yard is the first diagram on this page. It is defined as an open, unoccupied space on the same lot with the building, situated between the nearest roof portion of the principal building and the front lot line of the lot, and extending from side lot line to side lot line in the case of interior lots. So in that diagram you see there's a house there, front lot line, and the light gray area is the front yard. That runs from the front lot line to the nearest roof portion of the principal structure. The second definition is rear yard. Space on the same lot with a building situated between the nearest roof portion of the principal building or buildings and the rear lot line, and extending from side lot line to side lot line. Again, there's a diagram there, shows the house, the rear lot line, and the rear yard located between the two of them, stretches from side lot line to side lot line. That's shown in dark gray. And that's really, one of the most important definitions here, because this shows that this entire area behind the house is rear yard and not side yard, as the building department contends. So based on this definition, the portion of the property that the tennis court is in, which you can see on that first diagram, is all located behind the rear of the house, and the rear lot line is all rear yard. So now we get to the definition of side yard. A space on the same lot with a building situated between the nearest roof portion of the principal building or buildings and the side lot line of the lot, and extending through from the front yard or from the front lot line where no front yard exists to the rear yard or rear lot line where no yard exists. And again, our diagram shows the simple language here and how that would appear. That is only those blue sections on the side of the house between the front yard and the rear yard alongside the residence. So again, contrary to the building department's contention, the side yard ends at the rear of the house. So the principal building side yard does not extend all the way to the rear, to the minimum required rear yard line as contended by the building department.
What's the size of the proposed tennis court?
It is
55 by 110.
55 by 110.
Okay,
Right here.
okay, thank you.
So go through that last point again. They
This,
contend what?
they contend that the side yard
Goes
runs
all the
all the way back to the minimum required rear yard setback, which
So then the
clearly
rear yard
it
would
does
just
not.
be from the minimum rear yard setback to the property line. Is that what they would say? The rear yard is just that?
Correct. And that's illustrated in the diagram showing the red
Red
of
hash.
previous and blue.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
So the plain language of these code definitions clearly show that that area is the rear yard where the tennis court is located, that the side yard ends at the rear of the house, and therefore the determination that the tennis court is encroaching in the required side yard of the principal residence is incorrect. And as such, the court is fully compliant with these setbacks. As Alice mentioned, it's been slightly revised, so now there's no relief would be necessary for the location of the tennis court, provided the board sides with our reading of the code, the historic reading of the code by the building department, the historic reading of the code by whoever wrote the residential zoning overview booklet, which I'm sure probably had some involvement from the town attorney's office.
I think it was Mike Benincasa.
Would all support the position of our client in regards to this property, this tennis court.
And it meets all the setbacks
Correct, as it has been revised location,
for accessory.
meets the accessory setback.
Now, how does it relate to all of the required yard setbacks? Because it also talks, the building code also talks about accessory buildings and structures not being located within required side yards and required total side yards for the principal.
It meets those as well. If you took the side yard, and that's what the building department did, they are extending the side yard all the way back, which it doesn't. The required side yard is only on the side of the property. But even if you.
Where is that definition?
That's-
Just the required yard. You've read the definition.
Required yard, there is no word required in any of those definitions of yard.
No, but there is
The-
a definition
there
of
is a-
yard, comma, required.
Yes, and that says it is the yard, it's the yard space as defined in 330-11.
Right.
So those
Which sets
minimum
all those
setbacks,
Correct.
which we do meet.
You don't.
We do, because the side yard doesn't extend past the back of the house.
The side yard setbacks go all the way to the rear yard.
Correct.
So in other words, maybe the side yard is, next to the principal building, but the setback requirements go all the way to the back property line.
Correct.
But the,
But this is an accessory structure.
right,
The
which is accessory structure is,
But
is not to be
what are the
requ-
setbacks for accessory structures required in
We meet
terms of
that.
side yards?
So you're not- no variance for that.
no variance for that. It's 10 feet, and we meet that.
You don't. You're at 7.8.
It's been revised, that was,
Oh, all right.
We
that
submitted
was
a revised site plan,
revised.
Katie.
When was that?
That, and I just
Earlier
handed
today
it to you.
and in today's.
Oh, today.
Sorry.
It makes it difficult to follow along.
Yeah, we need to see all of that.
So the side setbacks extend over.
This is all old.
The building department's
You have
position
it in
is
your
that you need to comply with the principal structure setbacks and all of the required yards. That's their interpretation.
This
you
isn't
can't-
limited to you guys.
No.
We have people hand us stuff on the night of a meeting, and they're different than, or is different than what we got
No,
and
we
reviewed in
understand that,
advance.
and
Yeah.
But we actually thought it made it a better application, and our architect wisely said that it should be like this, and she's correct, so we did make that change. I apologize that it was at the last minute, but I think it was necessary to do.
So Katie, what was your last point about the
No,
principal?
I was saying that what you said, Susan, is the building department's position. The building department's position is that the principal, you make, I mean, it's just like this. You make your building, you make, your principal building envelope, and you make your accessory building envelope, and these setbacks continue all the way back, so that even though, yes, this is in the rear yard, but it's still within,
The principal building envelope.
correct. Same with the side. It's it's to the side, but it's within the principal
Envelope.
side yards, the required principal side yard setbacks. And the building department's interpretation is that you want to keep your required side yards open, which is
Building
whatever the
department hasn't
section.
seen it revised yet either, have they?
It doesn't matter.
No, but that doesn't matter. But
It doesn't matter.
what the position here is, if 33076D says accessory buildings and structures, including private garages, shall not be placed within a required front yard, a required side yard, nor the total required side yard for the principal building. As that illustration, the blue shows, the required side yard for the principal building does not extend beyond the rear of the residence.
But the setback
setback.
does.
The accessory setback would apply to our structure, which we comply with. But the principal structure setback, the principal side yard minimum is not extend beyond that.
Katie, what's the interplay between the accessory building envelope and the principal building envelope?
I don't know what you mean.
So, what it
Accessory is bigger.
I understand that, but but it appears that the building department is saying that that this accessory structure cannot encroach on the principal building envelope.
No, it cannot encroach in the required side yard setbacks.
For the
You can
principal.
absolutely be within the principal
building
building
envelope.
envelope.
Okay.
And the reason these are all coming up now is because people are blowing out the principal building envelope, so they don't want to put any accessory structures here. Here, they did put the pool within the principal building envelope, but now there's no room for the tennis court, and so the building department would say,
It's close, right?
your tennis court, because there's no more room in the principal building envelope, your tennis court has to be in the required rear yard, and that's where you can comply with your accessory setbacks.
Setbacks.
Yes, because the
Okay.
building department's interpretation is that your required side yards need to remain open, and they maintain that they go all the way back.
So we're gonna consider the arguments about the interpretation, but I just wanted to have the presentation cover, both scenarios.
Can I just make one last point and then I'll
I
pass?
think Lucy did as well.
Okay.
Okay.
In 330-76D, it does not say that it must be out of the total side yard setback. It says it is not allowed in the required side yard. And I think it's very hard pressed to read these definitions and say that the required side yard of the residence extends anywhere beyond the front and rear wall of it. So I understand that that's their interpretation, is that it has to meet the required side yard setback. That language is nowhere in these definitions or in these requirements to say that the structure has to meet the required side yard setback of a principal building. It says it can't be in the required side yard of the principal building.
Well, it also, Town Code 83C yards also talks about required yards being open to the sky. And again, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about your required yards being open to the sky.
I think CU wants to.
Okay.
Yes.
So 83C, it says, every part of a required yard shall be open to the sky and obstructed except for retaining walls and accessory buildings in the rear yard. So what rear yard means is behind the house. Behind the house is the rear yard. That means that part, your accessory structure do not have to follow the required yard for the house. That part should follow the accessory setbacks written here.
I know that's your interpretation.
I'm
just telling you what the building
I didn't
department
use
says.
proper English. then,
No,
yeah.
I
No,
know,
thank
and that's
you.
why
you-
think
please
no,
don't.
Thank you for,
said
maybe
it
I was
perfect.
clarifying that as well. Thank you very much.
I'll quickly address the variance standards. We've been over some of this already. So this is for variance relief now for 12.2 feet, to allow the tennis court to be located 12.8 feet from the southwesterly property line, where there is a required principal building side yard setback of 25 feet, though the structure is in the rear of the house. It does comply with the accessory side yard setback. No undesirable change will be produced. It's a minor request, and the affected property is owned by the same beneficial property owner, who obviously supports this request. He's also here tonight. The court is proposed to be sunken, which attenuates noise. If you take a look at the aerial I submitted, it's the last thing on that package. You can see that tennis courts in rear yards are quite consistent with the character of the neighborhood. I counted 15 just in the immediate area. The benefit sought cannot be achieved by another method. The relief requested is the result of a change in the interpretation by the building department, and the proposed location is only feasible on the lot, and it has the least amount of impact. If the tennis court were shifted further to the rear of the lot, the applicant would be asking for a rear yard coverage variance, and would still need the side yard variance, though for a smaller portion of the court. If the proposed new legislation for rear yard coverage was adopted, we would happily move the court back 32 feet, which would reduce the requested relief to 60 square feet of area, whereas right now we're asking for 430 square feet. So it's just this little kind of bright green spot right here that would get a lot smaller. The requested variance in the context of this property and the surrounding properties is small, and given that, well, I think there's no objection unless Steve Grossman is here on this one, but I kind of doubt it based on what the site looks like. It's very well vegetated. There's, some agricultural land across the street, and I don't think anyone would ever see or hear this thing. The proposed variance will have no adverse effects or impacts on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. As I mentioned, many nearby properties have them. It's proposed to be sunken, and it will also be equipped with dry wells to prevent any runoff. The alleged difficulty is not self-created. Again, it's result of the change in the interpretation of 330-76D and 330-83C of the code. And if you combine the new interpretation with the rear yard coverage restrictions, it makes the placement of a tennis court nearly impossible in the rear yard when it was previously feasible. Lastly, I think it's important to mention that this lot was acquired and designed based on conferences with the building department regarding exactly what could be built here, including a tennis court, and that such tennis court could be built without the need for a discretionary relief from this board. The end.
Okay. Have you heard from any of the neighbors?
We have not.
Okay.
Maybe we're about to.
Okay, well, just figured I'd ask. Okay.
But the neighbors are mostly quiet.
Right,
He likes it.
okay, yeah, okay.
Can I ask you something? You talked about rear yard coverage would be affected. In what way? I mean, the rear yard coverage is what it is. I mean, it's the same.
Yes. So,
Whether you move it one way or another.
so right now, we're almost at the max.
But,
We're like 20% of the
no,
required.
I understand, but moving it isn't gonna change that. It's still 20%. I mean, the rear yard is from the house back.
No,
But there's a
gonna
proposed
increase
legislation to increase the rear yard lot coverage to 50.
Okay.
So then we
Okay,
could
got it.
shift it back.
And turning the tennis court's not possible?
Well, not for playing.
Why is that?
Oh, because then the sun would be in your eyes.
Oh.
You can't play like
I'm
that.
sorry.
That's actually a real issue.
Well, I have one
I'm not a
with the sun
tennis
in my
player, and I
eyes.
know that, so.
I have one that I play with the sun in my eyes. It gives you a
I
great
don't play.
excuse.
I've done a lot of tennis court variances, and people feel very strongly about not having the sun in their
so-
eyes. It gives an advantage to one player or the other.
Yeah, and then you switch sides. That's what we do in my house, so.
That sounds very fair.
That's very fair.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, is there anyone who's in the room, does not appear to be in connection with this application, which is the application of 1127 Noack Path LLC, who would like to be heard? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? Again,
Yes.
there is. Okay.
My name is Steve Grossman.
Hi, Steve, we can see you and we can now hear you.
I represent Marvin Shanklin, who is probably the longest-term resident of Windy Hill before the May subdivision was even completed. We got notice for number 5, the one that was adjourned to the last meeting.
Okay.
Probably you received all.
It was on previously.
Yes, it was.
It was on previously and adjourned, yes.
Right, and now, we got a notice, that it's the same application as number 2, 3, because it is the same application.
It's
So,
similar interpretation, similar variances.
They're saying it's exactly the same. They want to fight the interpretation.
No, that's a mistake.
And if they can't fight the interpretation, they want to make.
Sure.
But I believe in their applications for a variance. They forget the fact that when they said nobody objected, that's because nobody knew until they were served. Once they got served, the way to object is to come to this meeting and object, which my client does. So I don't know if you want to consider both of them together.
They asked,
Procedural.
Steve, they asked to consider both of them together, but then they had a problem with the advertisements for number 3, so
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Volume goes down when I become a participant than when it is when I'm.
Yes, they asked for them to be heard together, but they had a problem with the posting or the mailing for number 3, so I asked them to make the pitch for number 5, so I could hear it today. So I mean, you're gonna, the next one, to Windy Hill is June 1st.
June 1st,
Yeah,
but so they're being heard separately, Steve.
Well, I will ask for you guys to just adjourn this to June 1st as well, just so you can answer any other questions that may have come up, and just
Right.
supplement it with, I want to ask you to supplement it as well. So they both will be heard on June 1st. They both will be heard on June 1st.
I think the dog is happy.
This one's gonna be extended to June 1st, and then we'll hear the other one on June 1st at the same time.
I'm sorry, still can't hear you. But
Okay, Steve, this application is gonna be adjourned until June 1st, and we're gonna be hearing the other application on June 1st,
Okay,
all right?
so they can, will they be considered together or one before the other? Because they seem to be the same.
I don't know.
What's
They'll
his
probably
objection?
be dealt with together.
We think
Is
they'll
that
be together.
correct? Probably.
But
Yeah.
I mean, the
What's his
issues,
objection?
Yeah,
the
the
issues
same
are the
issues.
same, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you object to the tennis court? Do you object to the placement of the tennis court?
I'm sorry?
Do you object to the
I'll
placement
call
of this
Steve.
You gotta
tennis court?
talk into
You
the
should have called me,
microphone.
frankly, but whatever.
He said his client does.
Problem hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say that your client did object to the placement of the tennis court?
He objects to the tennis court, yes. He
Okay.
agrees with the building inspector, and he was fighting the variance.
Why?
Oh, first of all, noise.
There was testimony that they are
I don't
sinking
know
the
if-
court too.
The tennis
Move to
court,
June 1st.
but he objects to the noise.
Let's move on.
Is there anything else?
Yeah.
June 1st for everything.
Okay, I think we should move on.
Okay, June 1st.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just 2 things I wanted to point out. One is, Mr. Schenken is here, this is not the side that we're requesting the variance from. This tennis court is proposed 20 feet away from his property line, which is a flag, a very long flag.
This is his, if you look at the tennis court diagram that is shown there, Mr. Schenken's property is all the way up here, and our property is all the way down there. So
That's a loud noise that
there's,
travels.
and his,
not
I
pickleball,
believe,
it's tennis.
his tennis court, he has a tennis court on his property as well, but the portion of his property that's adjacent to ours is a flag strip for his driveway. The residence is hundreds and hundreds of feet away.
And you said it's well vegetated. Is
Oh,
this going
very,
to?
very, you know, what, the next time I'll bring some photos.
Okay,
It's-
and that would be maintained, I assume.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that should be
Yeah.
part of the,
That benefits everyone.
yes,
Okay.
okay.
Steve, you wanted to tell us something else?
Yeah, I'd like to say that, he's right, it's far away from Mr. Shen. So it's possible that the one that's close to the one we got noticed, that could be denied. So they can have one in one place and one in the other place. I mean, it's the same application, just a
They
different
did receive
location.
notice. It's been
Okay.
And, I just determined that, just learned that this evening, because I was only
6-1 case.
noticed on
Huh?
6-1.
This one.
And they were both at the same time,
Yep.
June 1st.
Okay, and then we'll revisit all these issues at our June 1st meeting.
All right, hold on, I just have one more thing to say, because I'm not gonna be at the June 1st meeting. I'd like to ask you guys to just give the board, like, all of the definitions that you're referring to, because you and I are both reading from them, but they don't have.
They're in the packet that was submitted today. All those definitions of side yard, rear
They're
yard,
next to the diagrams.
they're with the diagrams.
We
Right
can
there.
look them up in
Yeah,
the
right there.
code too, so it's, we'll look it up in the code.
But that's not really how it reads. It doesn't say space situated, you know.
No,
They're
the definitions are right, each
they're on
one,
top.
front yard,
Oh, at the top,
rear
I see,
yard,
I see.
side yard.
Got it. I was looking
If
at the
there's
side.
another one, we can.
No, yeah,
include
we'll
that.
Okay.
submit any definitions you'd like, because we believe they all support our position, so.
Okay, and the other thing I just wanted, Candace had just reminded me also, again, the other reason for the interpretation, you know, the interpretation as it's been written up this way is because, and this board has seen this many times, when these structures are, if these structures are within, if they're just placed behind the principal, you know, if the interpretation is that it's the rear is as defined as behind the house, then when the additions are made to the houses, sometimes it puts these structures within required yards again. So again, the interpretation has been to not just use, to not only keep the required yards open, to keep the required yards open, because if they are in those required yards and the additions are to the house going back this way, then the structures are no longer conforming. And we've seen those, we legalize those oftentimes. The tennis court has a CO, somebody does an addition to the house, and now the tennis court that has a CO is within a required size.
Thank you, Katie, and I understand that, and I understand that reasoning is sound, and I understand that the interpretation changed, but what should happen, in my humble opinion, is that when an interpretation that is so important like that changes, there should be a grace period for people that bought properties and planned properties and put a lot of money into their plans to develop those properties a certain way, relying on a prior interpretation, truly relying on it.
The building department maintains that it hasn't been a change. I mean, I know you've shown me examples of it, but there's, 10 building inspectors and they're all writing things up differently. So again, I'm not saying that this is wrong or right. I'm just saying that you're not the only person that said that. Kevin has been nodding his head the whole time, so.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yes.
I've been working in Southampton for 15 years. 15 years ago, when I first come here, I would wait online, going up and ask questions, what I can do or cannot do. I often answer 3 questions, go back to the line, come back, answer more questions. And one of the projects I did is I wanted to put a swimming pool on the side of the house. Marjorie was on the counter. She told me, if you place on the side of the house, you have to follow the principal setback. But as soon as you pass the house, you can go to use accessory setback. And therefore, the swimming pool could be in an L shape. And that's a rule that I followed since 2008. And it is written on the town's booklet. I know Benny Casa wrote it because when I go see him, he'll wave the little booklet and say, how do you like it? Don't you like it? And he wrote it, and I followed it, and it's very, very, very clear. And I gave them the examples that I look back, whatever I can find, that I personally got approval using accessory setback once past the house. I gave them examples. And that is, to me, makes sense because I was there, asked Marjorie, said, why outside of the house I cannot put an accessory structure? It says, because you add to the mass of the house. But once you pass the house, you don't add to it, it's fine. And therefore, there is a reason for it. Right now, it's like, even if you pass house, especially it's like a lot this big, and you're not allowed to use the accessory setback until you go all the way to the point where it is a required rear yard setback for
Okay,
the house.
we're gonna be revisiting all these issues on June 1st, okay?
But this
All right.
this is important, so I do, I mean,
Yes.
ordinarily for the board, it's usually like, just grant the variances. This is important for you to take a look at this interpretation and look
Yep.
at these town code sections, so
Yep.
I urge you all to look.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, anyone else who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? Kevin? No one. Okay, all right, if not, I will move that we adjourn, keep open and adjourn the application of 1127 Noyak Path LLC for 4 Windy Hill Lane in Bridgehampton to our June 1st meeting.
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Have a good rest of your night.
Item 6 on the agenda, which is a holdover application. It's Gerard and Ellen Perino, 28 Benita Road, East Court. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
These are virtually unreadable though. The numbers are so small. They're up over you and Hello.
Who's the lead on this?
Good evening.
I
evening.
am. I'm the lead.
Susan is, okay. Originals?
I took my notes.
Small set for everybody,
No problem.
Thank you so much.
and then here's 2 extra
Yeah, you
big
might
sets.
wanna look at the big ones because even though they're 11 by 17, they're not that.
This is Perino, right?
Yes.
I'll take the big one. I'll take a big one.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Very well, how are you?
Two big ones.
All right.
Okay. One stamp, one stamp.
Well, I took the stamp.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So we have,
You keep that in the channel.
yeah. Anybody else want to see the large,
Anybody else blind? needs to see
yeah.
that?
wanna
See the large
one?
what?
No, those are the small.
Those are small,
Let's go,
these are
Ken.
large.
Very well. Okay, so obviously we were here last month, and as per the request of the board, which we didn't, the feedback was, let's get this thing smaller.
Yep.
So you asked and you receive. We started out with a pyramid of 4,032, and we've knocked it down to 2,362. So we took 1,670 cubic feet out of it. So now we're at 2,362.
Which is almost half.
Yes.
Appreciate your effort.
Basically, all ceiling heights are now 8 foot. The roof pitch was changed, the sides were changed a little bit, but we still did a little change of the floor plan, but nothing major. And, that was it. The only other thing that you would ask for was a survey, but my surveyor forgot to mail it to me.
Wait, you said 2362?
We're down to 2,362 now. So that's, yeah, we knocked off quite a bit.
The 4032 is now 23.
Yeah, 4032 was the original.
Now it's
2362. We knocked off 1670.
Good.
And it's still, as we had mentioned, it still looks, it's got a very nice look to it. Did not,
You put dormers in, is that how you did it?
no, I wouldn't really call them dormers. It's really just the pitch of the roof more than anything.
I need
There
to
is a
see.
little bit of a dormer,
Just look at
and but we did change the ridge also. So there were a couple, putting everything together, piece by piece, came out to be considerable, which is what you would like, and actually, it's still a very nice project. So,
Well, thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
so,
good. All right. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
We need the survey.
Yes,
Yeah,
I will,
yeah,
hopefully it will be in the
well
mail
aware of
tomorrow.
that.
Yep, okay.
He was away on vacation and
And
forgot to mail it to me.
Did you just get these plans? I mean, was
I
there
did,
was-
yes, it
So
was-
you weren't able to provide it to us in advance of the meeting, so we had a chance to look at it?
No, I received them last night,
Okay.
because we kept going back and forth.
It just makes it difficult
No,
for us
understood,
to
which,
look
but-
at this stuff at, be presented. I know you've done a good job in
Well,
terms
he
of
came back to
reducing.
me and I told him he was still too high.
I see.
You know, and we only had a month to do this, so then I said, that's not gonna work. You have to get down more. So that took another week or so, and then they showed up on my doorstep, so
Right.
here we are. I
the
was
way it
gonna drop
goes.
them off this morning, but then at that point, we weren't going to see them anyway.
Right,
So,
right, right. It's just helpful to get this material to us in advance of the meeting.
I
So we have
do
a
what I
chance to
can.
look at it.
Normally, I'm not the architect, or I would.
Okay. There does not appear to be anyone in the audience. Is there anyone who's waiting to hear on Zoom in connection with this application, which is for Perino for 28 Bonito Road in East Quogue? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one. Susan, it's yours.
Okay, so we're going to close the public hearing. We're going to leave it open for written submissions till June 2nd, and I assume we'll have the survey
You will have
in
the survey
hand by then,
Monday or Tuesday.
with a decision on the 15th of June.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your efforts. Greatly
Did
appreciated.
anybody like a big set? I have one left.
You want the big set?
No,
No,
keep it.
thank you.
Keep it in case there's something wrong that Mark wants to do, guys.
All right, that was a good idea. All right, thank you
All
all.
right, thank you.
Good evening.
You too.
All right, item 7 on the agenda is correction / clarification. Camp Jerome, 607 Main Street in Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-378-1-12.3. On November 5, 2020, by decision number D020102, this board made a determination that 3 pre-existing dwellings could remain on Lot 4 of a 4-lot subdivision without any variances or additional relief, notwithstanding that the lot's configuration and lot area were being changed as a result of a subdivision and various conditions. The subdivision was still being finalized at the time of the decision, and subsequent to this board's approval, the town board offered to purchase proposed lots 1, 2, and 3. As such, the proposed subdivision map was modified before the planning board to a 2-lot subdivision with a newly proposed lot 1, previously lots 1, 2, and 3 to be purchased by the town, and a newly proposed lot 2, previously lot 4, where the 3 non-conforming dwellings would remain. As such, the applicant requests that the previous decision be amended.
So I have a decision on an corrected or amended decision. It's everything Keith just read, and then it continues. Additionally, the town agreed as a condition on the sale that the structures previously required to be removed from former lots 1, 2, and 3, the barn and frame shed, could remain. Therefore, the last paragraph of decision number D020102 is replaced in its entirety and now reads as follows. This board determines that the 3 pre-existing dwellings in their current size and configuration may remain on proposed lot 2 without any variances or additional relief. These dwellings will still constitute a pre-existing non-conforming use with all prior expansions counting toward the allowable limit permitted by the town code, but will now be on a new tax map number with a different total lot area and lot width. This board finds that this determination is appropriate as the lot area of proposed lot 2 still boasts more than 6 times what is required in the zoning district. While this board appreciates that the Planning Board and Conservation Board have requested additional time to consider the application, the issue before this board is one of a determination, and the premises is granted this determination only as it relates to the 3 dwellings remaining on proposed lot 2 with a total lot area of 252,638 square feet. Therefore, and for the reasons stated herein, this board finds that the 3 existing dwellings, a principal residence and 2 cottages, can be maintained on a single property consisting of 252,638 square feet, proposed Lot 2, as a result of a two-lot subdivision, as shown in the survey prepared by Robert A. Smith of Squires Holden, Weisenbacher and Smith, prepared February 15, 2019, last revised August 1st, 2022. This decision is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant is already required or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, and is conditioned upon no further subdivision of Lot 2 and the removal of the existing basketball posts from Lot 2 as indicated on the aforementioned survey.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. On to decisions, and I have a few.
Candace, do you have an extra
First,
copy of the agenda?
decision in the matter of the application of 61 Bay View Drive LLC and Jacqueline Kress for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 932-1, lots 23 and 27. This application is for property located at 61 and 65 Bayview Drive, North Sea. Applicants propose a lot line modification to increase the size of a waterfront lot in order to remove a house from Little Peconic Bay and build a new house and pool landward. The proposed redevelopment is preferred by the planning board, and who assumed lead agency on the application and adopted a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA by resolution on February 23, 2023, finding that the project will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1. For a proposed lot line modification, 33011, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations. For proposed Lot 1, a lot area of 6,800 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and a lot width of 57.51 feet where 150 feet is required. And 2, for proposed Lot 2, a lot area of 15,865 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required, and a lot width of 72.51 feet where 150 feet is required. And 33082, lot width, to allow a flagpole width of 15 feet where 20 feet is required. 3, for the existing dwelling on proposed Lot 1, a principal rear yard setback of 64.9 feet where 70 feet is required. 4, for the proposed dwelling on proposed Lot 2. 1, 33011, a principal total side yard setback of 42 feet where 60 feet is required. And 2, 33084D, pyramid height, for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 427 cubic feet on the south side. 5, for the proposed swimming pool. 1, 33011, for an accessory front yard setback of 34.8 feet where 70 feet is required. And 2, 33076D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts. And 33083C, yards, to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required front yard for the principal building. And 6, 33083A4, to allow a deck higher than 1 foot above ground level to be located within the required front yard. These variances are granted as shown on the floor plans and elevation/pyramid diagram prepared by Catherine Fee, dated April 7, 2023, and the survey prepared by David L. Saskis, last dated December 28, 2022.
Second.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
No.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a determination in the matter of the application of 1566 Noyak LLC for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 933-110.1. This application is for property located at 1566 Noyak Road, North Sea. Applicant proposes a 4-lot subdivision and requests variances for the width of the flagpoles. The proposed configuration is preferred by the planning board, and this board adopts a negative declaration, finding that the project will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 33082, lot width, to allow the 4 flagpole driveways on a proposed 4-lot subdivision to each have a width of 12.5 feet respectively, where 20 feet is required. As shown on the subdivision map prepared by Vincent Codiello of the Rayner Group, prepared October 21st, 2022. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, have a determination on the matter of the application of Edwards 4, which is located at Suffolk County Tax Map number 934-117. This application is for property located at 2071 Deerfield Road, Noyak. Applicant requests relief for road frontage on a lot that takes access over an easement to Deerfield Road. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants applicant relief from Town Code 33082, lot width, to allow a road frontage of 0 feet where the minimum road frontage of a lot at the street line shall be at least 40 feet. For a lot as shown on the survey prepared by Stephen Barilski, dated January 19, 2022, granted the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a determination on the matter of the application of Anthony D. Philippus for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map number 999-131.3. This application is for property located at 21 Sim Street, North C. The applicant requests a determination that the subject premises is a single and separate lot. Based on the testimony and evidence presented, this board agrees. Therefore, this board finds that the subject premises located at 21 Sims, North C, Town of Southampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 999-131.3, is a single and separate lot entitled to relief pursuant to Town Code 330-115D, as shown on the survey prepared by Gary Benz, last updated March 23, 2023. Granted the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including legalization of the existing hot tub and the removal/relocation of all fencing currently located within the right-of-way prior to the issuance of any certificates.
Second.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And the last one I have is the decision on the application of HB Beach House LLC for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-191-110. This application is for property located at 23A Oakhurst Road, Hampton Bays. Applicant requests variances for a proposed second floor deck extension over an existing deck on a non-conforming lot. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed extension of the second floor deck on a non-conforming lot. Town Code 33011, Residence Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a total lot coverage of 23.8%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted. And Town Code 33084D, Pyramid Height, for an encroachment in the amount of 178.3 cubic feet for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Nathan Tapp Corwin, surveyor, last revised September 9, 2022, and the plans and elevations prepared by Nicholas Anthony Vero, dated September 29, 2022. This decision is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the acquisition of a letter of non-jurisdiction from the Conservation Board prior to the issuance of any building permit.
Second.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Another good meeting.
All right.
Congratulations again, Susan.
Okay. We have no more decisions?
No.
Motion to close.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are closed.